What is up, everybody? Welcome to Talkin BS. I'm your host, Steven Zamora. If you can, please follow me on Twitter at ZamoraBSB. Now, today I got a very special episode of Talkin BS for you guys. It's part of my off-season previews for every single team in the NBA. So, regardless of who your favorite team is, I'm going to be covering them. I'm going to be giving you some really cool insight onto what the teams can be doing in this offseason. We're going to go over a bunch of different things. And on today's episode, we're going to be covering the San Antonio Spurs, or as I like to call them last season, the San Antonio Wembies. So for this episode, what we're going to be doing is covering some of the weaknesses that the Spurs need to improve on, right? There's a few of them. Tools that they have at their disposal to get better. That's like cap space, draft picks, all that type of stuff. Some must-dos, some things that they need to go over this offseason to plan ahead and see how they're planning on building around this young team. And then we're going to go over the options that they have as far as improving the team in the offseason, right? That includes the draft. That includes some trade options. I'm going to throw some trades at you guys, see if you guys enjoy them. And, free agency, right? You guys got a ton of cap space, but we'll get into that. And at the end of it, we're going to get into a final rotation that I believe you guys can be really excited about heading into the next season. Trying to fix some of them woes that you've had in this past season and maybe get you guys into the play-in or even a playoff spot, which would be really cool considering you guys got one of the all-time great draft picks in Victor Wembanyama. So, of course, some of the biggest weaknesses that you guys need to address before going into the next season. You were 27th in rebounds allowed per game, 28th in three-point percentage, 25th in shooting efficiency, 28th in opponent field goal attempts per game, 27th in free throw attempts per game, and 30th in steals allowed per game. So we're going to mostly look at the shooting, but we're also going to address some defensive issues, some versatility issues, and, just try to make this team a little bit more well-rounded around Wemby. All right, so the tools that you guys have at your disposal. You got the 4th overall pick in the draft, which is awesome. You have the 8th overall pick in the draft. You have the 35th and the 48th overall in the second round as well. You have a ton of young assets that can be moved easily if the Spurs decide to add a star next to Wemby. You have 17 first and 17 second round picks in the draft until 2030. That's the most I've seen so far. And one of the lowest payrolls in the entire NBA and a ton of cap space to work with, which is really exciting. You guys have a ton of options to get better this year. Next up, we're going to look at some draft boards. Okay, we're going to get ready for the draft here and some big boards. So this first page, we got, some big boards provided by CBS, one provided by Tankathon, and one provided by The Ringer. The big one in the middle is provided by The Ringer. And on the second slide, we're going to look into picks 10 through 20 around there. You have the 4th pick and the 8th pick. We're not going to really get into the second round picks. Some different options here. As you could see, this isn't like the Wemby draft, right? You don't have a ton of like super top end superstar talent, right? You don't have a guy in here that's 7'4" and can handle and shoot. But you got some good options, okay? You got a lot of good guys who are, I think potential stars, right? Every draft has stars. Regardless if this is called a weak class or not, we're going to find a star or two in this draft. And, hopefully at that 4th overall pick, you guys can find that star and, pair him up next to Wemby. One of the draft picks I really want to see you guys use is for this kid out of France. Bring another French kid into the fold. Zachary Reisesher. I hope that's how you say it. If that's not how you say it, please let me know down in the comments. But as far as I've heard, his name is Zachary Reisesher. He is a 6'9" long shooter from France. He has great touch on his shot. He's really big. He has a lot of positional versatility, right? He could probably play the 4 or the 3. He's a good ball handler. He can move off the ball, which is really nice as a shooter. Quick processing speed, right? That's another big thing going into the Spurs system. You're going to need to be able to process everything that Pop's throwing at you and everything that because in the playoffs, that's what really matters, right? There's a lot of guys who are very talented, but they can't get play in the rotation during the playoffs because the game speeds up and they just can't take, the speed of the game at that point. And then I also have in there that he's French, right? It'll be cool to have another kid in here that, can speak the language with Wemby and, just make him feel more comfortable and he could come into an organization where the superstar is from where he's from and he could be more comfortable. And, that it's a little thing, but, little things matter like that. Some of the negatives he has is he's not a great inside scorer. He's not a great self-creator, right? He can handle the ball a little bit, but he doesn't have like a ton of burst or anything like that. Like he's not a big like superstar athlete or anything like that. Um, he's a bit inconsistent. I mean, it comes with his age, right? He's a kid. Everybody's going to be pretty inconsistent. I know I said he has the versatility defensively, but he doesn't really have the instincts defensively. And also toughness and rebounding is kind of a question. From the film that I've seen, I don't really understand that one, to be honest. I've seen him get in there. I've seen him do some dirty work. I feel like a lot of guys who are perimeter shooters kind of get that stigma as well. I'm a Nuggets fan, and Michael Porter Jr. kind of gets that stigma a lot, even though he averages like 8 rebounds a game or something like that. And like, there's multiple times where he gets like 10, more than double-digit rebounds in a game. So, but speaking of that, he's actually compared to Michael Porter Jr. a lot. He's got that size, average 10 points a game, 0.9 assists per game, right? Very Michael Porter Jr. stat line. He's also compared to Cam Johnson, who's another like tall, lengthy shooter guy. Now with that other pick, one guy I want to see brought in here too is Nikola Topic from Serbia. He averaged 18 points per game, 7 assists, almost 4 rebounds, 52% field goal percentage, 26% from 3. He's compared a lot to like Goran Dragic. To me, I think he has a similar game. I don't know if he'll ever reach this ceiling, but to me, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He has size, he has touch, he has footwork on his drives and stuff. He's a great playmaker, very smart kid, very good basketball IQ, processing speed. Same thing, like I said with Reisesher, is you need that processing speed to play with the Spurs and to play in the playoffs. He's very creative, great pick and roll ball handler, which is huge, right? This is something that I think is going to be good if he ends up with Wemby. And, he's very young, ton of upside, right? Like I said, I don't know if he'll ever reach the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander comp, but to me, his game is similar, and he's young enough that, one day he might be able to reach that. He has a bit of a stiff jumper. He's a reluctant shooter. He's a pass first guy, right? A lot of these guys from Serbia are kind of built like that, where they're taught their whole lives out there that moving the rock is the most important thing, which is a valid thing, right? But sometimes when you're in the NBA, you just gotta take a shot, right? He fouls a ton. He's an inconsistent defender, so he's a bit like Luka in the way that there's times where Luka almost, I don't want to say lazy because that seems like too much, but sort of lazy, right? Where he just like doesn't want to move his feet. He doesn't want to stay in front of his guy, and he'll just end up reaching or something like that. He loses focus and effort, right? Same thing. Athleticism, creation concerns, and health. So he had a knee injury, I want to say about 5 or 6 months ago. That was pretty bad. And then recently, I want to say maybe a week or two ago, he did it again. And they don't know if it's a strained, was it an ACL? I want to say it was an ACL. A strained ACL, or I don't think it was a tear. But we're waiting on reports still. But still, it's still really scary that, same knee, left knee, he's injured it twice within the last 6 months. So, that is a little worrisome. All right, so next we're going to get into some trade targets, okay? Now, like I said, you guys have a ton of cap room. You guys have a ton of young assets, and you need to fill that cap room out. To me, this just smells like a consolidation trade. So I got some big targets here for you guys. At the very top, let's talk about him, Trae Young, okay? This is who everybody in the entire world is saying that the Spurs are going to end up getting. And it makes sense, right? He's a smaller guard who's going to need a big backline defender to protect him on defense. Okay, got Victor Wembanyama. He's a one of the best pick and roll partners in the entire NBA. He made Clint Capella a really good center for the last 5 years. He's a great passer. He's a good floor spacer, right? Theoretically, on paper, it makes a ton of sense. He fits the timeline somewhat. I believe I want to say he's like 26, 27 years old. I'm not 100% on that. You're going to have him around for Victor's entire first contract, right? Probably. The next one, Darius Garland, right? This is one I haven't seen too many people saying, but I think would be a wonderful, wonderful pickup because he's even younger than Trae. He's a very good pick and roll partner as well. Cleveland said that probably gonna, or I don't know if he requested a trade. I can't remember what I read. If he requested a trade or if they said they were planning on trading him. And I just think he's going to be an absolutely perfect fit next to Wemby if they ended up on the same team. Then we got Mikal Bridges, perimeter defender who can score the rock and has played and been a number one option on a team for the past couple of years. I think he'd be a great option there on the wing. Then we got Anthony Simons, another guy who can, absolutely just get you buckets and, help Wemby kind of, you know, tilt his focus a little more on the defensive end where he really shines and let Anthony kind of get the buckets there. And last but not least, Jordan Poole, same idea, right? A guard who can handle the ball, put some, you know, get some points and, help Wemby focus on the defensive end. But, since you guys are one of the funnest teams in the league, I wanted to put together something that would be really fun, really exciting for you guys. And at the same time, like I said, I wanted to keep this team young. So let's look at the trade I came up with. I got the San Antonio Spurs sending Keldon Johnson, that 4th pick overall, and Jeremy Sohan to Cleveland in exchange for Darius Garland and Dean Wade. Darius Garland, like I said, great fit next to Wemby. I think it would be absolutely fantastic to get Garland there. They can create such a dynamic duo. Garland is, like I said, he's a little bit of a defensive liability, but you got a guy like Wemby back there. You got Devin Vassell on the perimeter who can take on some of the tougher assignments defensively. You send the number 4 overall pick. Could be Topic, could be Reisesher. You might even be able to send it before the pick and let them pick who they want at that spot. And then Jeremy Sohan, you just got to put together a big package for Garland. You got to blow the team away. You got to blow Cleveland away because they're going to get a ton of, offers for him. And at the end of the day, you got to come up with the best one. And I think, I don't think Cleveland will get a better offer than this. You get Keldon Johnson. They've been missing a wing on that team forever. You get that 4th overall pick. You can go and replace Garland with Topic or, Stephon Castle. There's a lot of good guards stealing him. There's a lot of good guards at the top of the draft this year. And then Jeremy Sohan. You got to move on from Jarrett Allen or Mobley at some point. And if you move Mobley to the 5, which is what I think is going to end up happening, you move Mobley to the 5, you're going to need a 4 there. And Sohan, he's developing his outside shot a little bit. I think he'd be a really good fit next to Mobley there. So we're going to look at this salary cap situation for you guys. Like I said, you guys got a ton of room because nobody on this team is making more than $20 million. The Spurs are going to have some of the most cap in the entire league and will be one of the few teams who need to spend money in order to hit the salary floor as opposed to hitting the salary cap. They will also have most of the roster filled, and with 4 draft picks in the NBA draft, they will be even more likely to be looking to fill this roster with bigger contracts. That's kind of the idea with the Garland trade, right? You move Keldon Johnson and his $20 million contract. Sohan, I think, is making $7 or $8 million, and you bring in Garland, who's making nearly 40, right? Fills in a good $20 million of your cap space because you have to spend at least $35 million, I want to say, to hit the cap floor, just to hit the floor. Let's look at some rumored free agents to see where we can spend that money. And I apologize for my terrible math. I'm probably a little off there, but that's generally around what we're looking at, right? So some free agents that we can see, some free agents that are hitting the market that you might be able to steal with that type of money. At the end of the day, Pop's your coach, man. There's going to be guys that want to play for Pop. So, and Wemby. People are going to want to play with Wemby. So cap space, Pop, and Wemby all in one space, man. I think out of a lot of the teams in the NBA, you have a case to be going after some top tier free agents if you really wanted to. At the top of the list, we're going to start with Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Klay Thompson. So these are kind of the guys I'm talking about, right? It's going to be very hard to poach them away from their teams. Maxey is going to be extremely hard because Philadelphia will likely just match any offer that any other team sends to him. So that's near impossible. If you get Garland, you're not going to need Maxey anyway. Paul George would be a great fit on this team. I just don't know if he's going to leave the Clippers. Klay Thompson, I don't know if he's going to leave the Warriors. Then you got Malik Monk, Tobias Harris, a couple guys who can, get you buckets. Like I said, relieve some of the offensive pressure from Wemby. Then we got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. If you decide maybe you want to put Vassell at the 3, you could put KCP at the 2 and cover for Garland. Depends on how you want to build that backcourt. Isaiah Hartenstein, Jonas Valanciunas, I think are two good options as centers. But somebody came up with the idea of the Spurs drafting Donovan Clingan and having Clingan at the center and Wemby at the 4. And I was like, man, that's really intriguing, as a matter of fact. Like, that'd be really cool to have two twin towers there. So that's kind of the idea here too, is like, maybe getting Hartenstein, maybe getting Valanciunas and having a really tall backcourt. But it's unlike like the Cleveland one, right? There's spacing because Wemby can shoot the ball and handle and pass. Then you got Buddy Hield, Kelly Oubre, Sadiq Bey. These are all guys who are going to space the floor for you and, fill out that forward spot. And at the very bottom, I got Bruce Brown. He's one of those guys who, if he's in a winning situation, he's going to double that, right? He's one of the guys who's going to just compound on the winning factors. He does everything that you need on a winning team. He does all the little things, and he's a spark plug. He's a fiery guy, and he's going to get your team going. So I think that's a great fit too. All right. So at the end of this, we got a final rotation. Let's look at it. At your point guard position, we got Darius Garland backed up by Trey Jones. Okay. A couple smaller guys as your backcourt. If you've watched my previous videos, I'm not big into having small guys on your team, but you guys got a 7'4" guy on your squad as well. So it kind of balances out, right? At your shooting guard position, you got Devin Vassell and Malachi Branham. Okay. Branham, I thought looked really good from, all the games that I watched last year. There was a lot of times the Nuggets played the Spurs and Vassell wasn't playing because he was hurt, or it was like the end of the season and, you guys weren't playing him. And Branham looked good. So, I was really impressed with him. I think he deserves a shot at that backup shooting guard position. With all the cap space that you guys have, though, I wouldn't be opposed to, going out there and offering Bruce Brown a contract, like I said. At the 3 spot, I got Sadiq Bey and Sidi Sissoko. Sissoko didn't get a ton of playing time last year from what I've seen, but he's a pretty high draft pick for you guys, and I think you need to get him some time in there. Same deal as the whole Malachi Branham thing, right? If he's not ready, it's good to have a vet that you can go and spend money on to bring in to fill out those minutes in case he just isn't ready. At the 4, you got Wemby and you got Reisesher. Now, like I said, the idea of a twin tower setup would be incredible to me. So that's what we got here. We're going to keep Wemby at the 4. We got Reisesher backing him up, especially with your center position. You got Isaiah Hartenstein and Zach Collins. Those are 4 guys who can all switch and move and, try different positions. Wemby brings so much versatility to this team. So it's just absolutely crazy. You can switch all those positions. You could put Wemby at the 5 and Reisesher at the 4. You could do Hartenstein and Wemby. You can do Collins and Wemby. Shit, you could do Wemby and Collins. You could do Collins and Reisesher. You could do Hartenstein and Reisesher. It's all over the place, right? If you've seen, like I said, if you've seen my videos before, I'm huge on positional versatility. It's 2024, man. You've got to have guys who could switch positions. Switching is everything on defense, and if you guys can't switch, then you're going to get cooked. What I really love about this rotation is, like I said, positional versatility. Guys can switch all over the place. It's a big, big benefit of having a guy like Wemby on your team. There is great playmaking now, right? Garland, I think, comes in and immediately upgrades your starting point guard position in a huge way. It gets Wemby and the rest of these guys a ton of great looks. You bring in a bunch of shooting, right? You got Sadiq Bey there. Darius Garland is going to bring you a ton of shooting. You bring a bunch of toughness and grit with a guy like Hartenstein and letting some of these younger guys play a ton. And, they're young and hungry. I just love how this turned out. So let me know down in the comments if you guys liked it too. I really would appreciate it. Before you go, if you did like this content, please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be doing one of these every day for all 30 NBA teams to get ready for the offseason. Hopefully, I'll get them all done before the NBA draft at the end of June. So I appreciate you guys so much for staying around and checking out this offseason preview of the San Antonio Spurs. You guys have a good one.